All right, so now that you finished your edit, let's go through some basic mixing techniques using automation. So first you want to get into an automation mode. For this tutorial, we're going to be using Latch. If it looks like this, it should be red, but if it looks like this, that means your automation is suspended. I've just opened the automation window. You can hit Command number pad 4. If you don't have a number pad, you can go to Window and hit Window Automation, and then toggle this so it's not suspended. And it should look like this. While you're here, you might only have like one of these selected or none of them or all of them selected. We just want to do plugin, volume, pan, basically everything except mute and the object bus. We won't get into that for these tutorials, but just make sure your setting looks like this. And you can close that window. Now that we're in an automation mode, Latch, we're going to start automating. If you have faders, that is the most ideal way that we usually do automation. But if you don't, that is completely fine. Let's view our automation lines by hitting Option or Alt minus. Now you'll see our automation lines, and you can see what automation you are viewing by looking at the side here. We are looking at our volume automation based on this line. If you turn off automation, which is again Option or Alt minus, you'll see that it's on waveform. We're looking at our waveforms. Hit Option minus, you're looking at the volume automation. If you were automating something else like the pan over here, which would be these two things here, you could do this, just select pan left, this is your left pan, and this is your right pan. But for the sake of this, we're just gonna stay on volume automation here. So before we mix, we always want to know our intention behind the mix. What are we mixing? Why are we making certain decisions as we're mixing? As we know, this is a background ambience for a scene in Central Park. Following this photo, this wide shot, you can see the city in the background. There's a lot of people here, but it's pretty open space. You can see the trees. You can assume that we're surrounded by trees in the park, but we're not really like in that, we're not like surrounded super close, like the trees aren't right above our heads. We're in an open field, right? So let's keep that in mind. If you look at the other photo that we're going to transition into, we're like on a trail. We're much more deep into the park. We are much more surrounded by trees. So if you just think about being there, what would you hear? You would definitely hear a lot more trees in that second photo compared to the first one. The first one, you're probably going to hear a little bit more distant traffic, a lot more people talking. So how are we going to use these same 3 tracks to create 2 different audio landscapes, 2 same but different ambiences? And how are we going to transition into them smoothly? So first thing we're going to do is we're going to hit Command, and you'll see a hand with a plus button. This is how you create what we call a breakpoint. So click, click, click. And we want to make these before our clip starts. It's okay, it doesn't really matter how far it is from the clip. Just make sure that it is before the clip. If you create your breakpoint a little bit too close, it might accidentally jump in your automation. So for the sake of this tutorial, we're just going to keep it around here. Zoom in a bit. All right, and then also for this exercise, you're going to want to be able to look at a meter for everything that you're listening to. If you're only looking at this meter here, you're only going to be monitoring what is on this track. If you're only looking at this meter over here, then you're only monitoring this track. But we want to monitor our entire mix, so we need a master fader. If you're running on Pro Tools Intro, then we're only allowed to have 8 tracks at once. We're not using audio track 8, so let's just delete it, and let's create a master. Shift Command N. We want it to be a stereo master. So we're going to hit stereo, master, and let's just keep it master. Create that. And then you want your audio output to be what you are listening on. So you're just going to want this to be your main output here. So this is my main output, so I'm just going to select that. I'm just going to take a listen. You'll see that your master here is taking in the audio from all 3 tracks and showing you the level here. I'm just going to right click and just make sure it's on RMS. Now the rule of thumb for BGs, ambiences, is that your entire ambience should be roughly around 35 RMS. If you listen now, start roughly around 20, which is way too loud for an ambience. 20 is mainly for dialogue, and 35 is where we want our BGs to be. So let's lower down these tracks until your entire mix is at around -35. Now you've created a breakpoints in the front here, but we also want to create the breakpoints in the back. All right, so now when you move this, which is your automation line, you'll be moving the region in between your first breakpoint and your last breakpoint. So let's just move it down a little bit. If you took a listen before, all right, yeah, so your entire mix has to be moved down around 15 dB. These two tracks are clearly our loudest tracks, so let's just move both of them down, maybe like 10 to start. 10.2, doesn't have to be perfect. 10 as well here. Take a listen to it again. Already so much easier on the ears. You can hear the trees a lot more as well, which is quite nice. Now, I listened and then kind of estimated how much I needed to turn it down, but a good way to mix is to mix while you're listening to it. So if I just undid those two automation lines and I'm listening, I'm going to move the automation line as I'm listening. Alright, so I was listening and just making some changes as I go, kind of going back and forth between every track and just balancing it until my meter is roughly around 35 RMS. Your automation might not be the exact same as mine, that's totally fine. Listen and automate as you are listening and find a balance that you like for the scene. Now we're going to transition from this scene to this scene. Let's say the transition happens just roughly around here. Do you remember the memory locations we made earlier? Let's make one to mark where your transition would be. Let's call it PC or perspective cut. Obviously we can make breakpoints to do transitions, smooth transitions in the automation itself. You can do this by hitting Command and creating breakpoints and then selecting the region so it glides, kind of like this. Another way we do perspective cuts is by banking our BGs. So let's just get rid of our automation lines for a second. Let's go to our memory location by just clicking on it so our playhead is there and zooming in. We're going to separate our clip, B, semicolon, B, semicolon, B. Zoom out. We're going to select here. I did this by just selecting the first clip, hold shift, click, click, click. And I'm just gonna move them down, but I don't want them to move from side to side. If I do this, oh, I might accidentally move it like this. Oh no, that's not what I wanted. Undo. Control, hold down Control, using the grabber tool or the smart tool, click, making sure it's the hand, drag. No matter what you do, you cannot move it from the region that it was. Drag down to your next 3 available tracks. Let's just zoom in here. I've just made the tracks a little bit bigger and I'm going to zoom in. Now, let's create a crossfade from here to here. Obviously, you can't really create a crossfade like this because there's nothing here and there's nothing here to crossfade into. So what are we going to do? We're going to take this selection and we're going to drag this out. See, your perspective cut is here. So we drag this out 1 frame and we're just going to do the same thing 1 frame so that your perspective cut is in the middle of where we're going to create our crossfade. We're going to create a 2-frame crossfade. So I'm just going to select here. This is 1 frame, this is 2 frames. Select it, drag across all the way down and hit F. Your fade may look more like a linear fade, but I like this one, so I'm going to keep this one, which if you hit Command F, it tells you what type of fade it is. Zooming out. So now I have a perfect crossfade. Take a listen and make sure it sounds good. Sounds great. Now, did the automation copy? Let's hit Option and minus. Yes, it did. The clip will remember the automation that you wrote. So even though you moved the clip to another track, it remembered that automation level that you tweaked earlier, and it moved it down to this track as well. But we want it to sound a little different. We can still start with the same bass though. So let's just take a listen to this one, remembering that this track is now a separate area of the park. I'm just going to loop the ambience. How I'm going to do that? Get out of automation for a second. Hitting Option minus to bring back my automation lines. This scene, I probably definitely want way less of the traffic. It seems like maybe something in the scene is a little bit more intimate. Maybe two characters are having a conversation. You don't really want that traffic to be that distracting in the background. Yes, of course, in real life, if you're walking in the park, you're probably going to hear the traffic. But this audio clip for the traffic is quite intense. It's a lot of horns, and maybe it just doesn't fit the narrative or the story that you're trying to tell. So let's get rid of some of the traffic that we already have here. As you see, it's looping. I think there's a little bit too much talking, so I'm going to bring that down as well. I kind of want more trees. And I think that's a little bit more fitting. As you go, you can get creative with how you want it. I really like this big rustle here for the tree, so I'm just going to copy that and move it here so it happens again. Hitting Command H here to heal where I just clicked, and taking that, dragging that out a bit, zooming in, adjusting the fade. Just taking a listen to that. But it's a little bit too loud in that area where the rustle happens. See, it's almost hitting -25 when the rest is around a good level. So what am I going to do? I'm going to automate just that area. How you're going to do that is you're going to hit this little corner where the fader is on the track that you're going to automate. And it'll pop up here. And we're already on an automation mode. So let's automate this. If you want to see what you're automating, you can hit Option minus, and as you move this, you'll see that it automates it. Obviously, that's not what we're going to do, so I'm going to undo that, and I'm just going to automate it this to make it a little bit quieter. You can automate it however you'd like. Once you stop automating, it'll automatically just go back where the last automation was written. Let's take a listen while looking at our master meter again. I think the dip is a little too fast. It's not gradual enough. I'm just going to get rid of some of these breakpoints by selecting and deleting them. Maybe move this one a bit back up. Taking a listen to that. think the glide is fine, but I still hear a little bit of an automation bump. Just a little bit dramatic when it goes down. So let's adjust this fade here actually. Take a listen. Maybe the type of fade is wrong. Let's do a more linear fade. All right, so obviously it's not perfect, but as you listen and you edit, you can make some edits, you can mix it more. Say you don't, there's like one car horn in here that you just want it to be quieter, or you want this dog bark to be quieter as well. You want this wall over here to be a little bit louder than the rest of it. Well, this is where you can adjust your levels to make it the way you want to fit the scene in the mixing stage. And you can do that by just, using your faders here. We also have a mixing view. If you go here to window and hit mix, or you can hit command or control equal sign, it'll bring out your mixer just over here. You can keep it at the bottom here if you'd like, just to use while you're mixing, and it'll have all your faders here, easy to use. You can adjust your window setup to your liking. So you can view these while mixing. You can move these while you'll have everything available for you. Obviously this is not what we're going to be doing, but I'm just showing you that this is an easy way to mix even if you don't have a console. Yeah, I'm just going to undo that. But this is a nice setup that you can use if you just have a keyboard and a mouse with you. Alright, so we've created a scene that goes from this image to this image over here, creating the ambience for a scene that would take place in Central Park. Feel free to play around with what you've just made, experiment with the mixing, with the editing, fades. It will take some time to really get in the workflow of Pro Tools, but Pro Tools really is a DAW where practice makes perfect. The more that you use it, the more comfortable you'll get, the more you'll find a workflow that really works for you, even when it comes to which key commands you like using. If you like zooming in with T and R, if you like using the zoom tool, if you like hitting Option scroll, Shift scroll instead of, whatever your setup is. Whatever your preference is, you'll find it with the more you use Pro Tools. Alright, so I hope these videos were helpful to you, and I hope that it was fun to create this ambience together. I would recommend looking for other sounds maybe and other images, or maybe even a scene in a movie that you like. If you just take that video and build an ambience that you like, try building an ambience for a different scene that you like. It doesn't have to be a park, obviously. It could be more of the city, it could be a restaurant, it could be a bar. Those all have different ambiences that are built with elements just like this. So I encourage you to find images or scenes from movies that you enjoy, and just doing this exercise, taking what we've learned today and putting them to practice, and hopefully that will get you a little bit more comfortable with Pro Tools. Alright, thanks for watching, and have fun.